Hello, Andrew. How's everything?
I'm pretty good. How are you, Bo?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. I just wanted to get Zoom going in case you were queued up to come on and let you know that we're still waiting for a quorum over here. So
Okay,
we're all systems go once we have the whole crew. So I'll keep you looped.
cool.
Yep. Test, test, test.
Okay. I'm calling the meeting to order. It's now 6:40. There.
Done. Okay. Do we need to do a tech check? Test?
Andrew, you still have me there on Zoom?
Check 1, 2.
I'm getting thumbs up from Zoom.
Gotcha.
I think we're going good.
Check 1, 2. I don't know. Can you hear me?
Can
Is
you
this
hear me?
going through the
Test,
system?
test.
Test. Okay.
Test. Mine doesn't seem like it's on. But maybe it is.
All the audio seems to be working from here.
I'm gonna grab
Commissioner Esch and Blasey will not be able to make it tonight.
it.
Okay.
Hess told me she wasn't coming.
Right. All right. Do we have any additions, deletions, or corrections to the agenda?
I just have one, Bo. Could you, the discussion item, is that just going to be an update from you today under number 9? Can
Yeah,
you-
yeah, I didn't know if you guys wanted time with it to discuss, but it's on there. We can strike it from the agenda as well.
I don't think we need to discuss unless somebody else has an issue with that. I feel like we discussed it at length and we have a presentation. It's pending to go to the board. It's my understanding.
Yes.
Perfect.
Okay.
So I'm going to move that we accept the agenda without number 9, delete that.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Motioned and seconded.
All in
All
favor?
in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Okay. Does anybody have any additions or corrections for the meeting minutes from our June meeting?
And reading those over, I do, Bo, could you please clarify under number 5, public hearing? A letter of public comment from an adjoining property owner was also presented. It's the second sentence. I don't recall that being discussed.
That
Or
was
what?
in the staff presentation, and we did talk about it for just a minute. There's a neighbor of an adjoiner that believes there's an encroachment.
Correct. I remember you just mentioning that, but the letter wasn't presented.
It was a short email. It was really a snippet.
It was in the packet that was provided to us.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so
It was very
if
short.
it's in the packet, would that have been presented in the public hearing? Can we just
It was.
adjust that? Oh, it was. Okay,
Yeah, it was in there.
all right. Then I'm going to move that we accept the minutes as written.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. All right. It is 6, no?
We should have the public input period.
Right. Right,
And
I was going to.
yeah.
All right. It's 6:45. I'm going to open the public input. We're going to allow 3 minutes per speaker.
Yeah.
Now it's on. Okay. I'm Robin Myers, 6795 Colorado Street. I was at the trustees meeting along with Jesse Stroop and my wife, Sean. We continue to want to give feedback both to the trustees and to the planning commission about our experiences with Baseline, how we've been charged, how expensive a mistake we believe the town has made by this business model. And in my case, trying to build a very small carport with no grading, no concrete pour. I ended up with a pass-through bill from Baseline for $1,120 for a series of emails and one phone call with Andrew Baker. I did not get any detail on that invoice. I don't know what those services were. I don't know at what rate they were being charged. I don't know of anyone who would agree to be charged by a third party without any information about how much, whether that party has carte blanche to review reviews. It's a really untenable situation. My wife's situation is perhaps more extreme. We hired Ollie Watts to do a minor lot line adjustment on 2 adjoining properties we both own. They did all their work. We paid them $4,000 some dollars. And then Baseline decided to review their review, even though they've been in business and had an engineering stamp that this town has approved for 45 years. Not only did the review cost us an additional several $1,000s because we have to pay Ollie Watts to respond to the reviews, to the redundant reviews, to what he believes were unprofessional reviews. So I just want to make everyone aware that we're in a situation where you've given carte blanche to a company to do at will whatever it wishes to do and pass through those charges to the property owners of Green Mountain Falls. I'm not sure even about the legality of this, but I urge you to continue to ask what has happened, because we're the first 3 property owners to experience this. And it's not just me, it's Jesse Stroop, it's my wife, and I think this thing could get seriously out of control. So thank you for giving me the opportunity. Do you have any questions?
Not at this time, but thank you very much for bringing that to our attention.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Do we have any other public input? Anybody on Zoom?
I don't have anything coming in from Zoom.
All right, I'm going to close the public input. Let's move on to reports. Commissioners, do you have any reports?
Nope.
Nope.
Staff?
We do have a staff report related to the public hearing, so maybe we'll just move into that and allow Andrew Baker from Baseline to present that report.
Okay. Then let's move on to the public hearing. And it is 6:48 right now. I need to put on my glasses clearly. Keep thinking I'm young.
Andrew, I have the staff report that was presented in this packet. I've screen shared. If you're able to present, I'll try to keep up with you, or if you want to screen share, that's available to you as well.
Sure. I have the PDF file of the presentation pulled up. If that's easier, I'm happy to share my screen.
Sure, go for it.
All right. Okay, can everybody see my screen?
Sure thing.
Great. Thank you all for being here with me. My name is Andrew Baker. I'm a senior planner for Baseline. I've been working on behalf of the town of Green Mountain Falls Planning Department for a few months now. Tonight's my first night in front of this commission, but I do look forward to many opportunities to get to know each other better in the future. Tonight, I will be presenting a variance request to a front setback for the property at 10755 Grandview Avenue. This request is for an approval of a variance to encroach 5 feet and 6 inches into the front setback of a single family home to allow the reconstruction of a deck and then attached stairs. Once again, at the address is 100755 Grandview Avenue. The applicant and property owners' names, Juliana and Douglas Argyle. The existing zoning is R1, low density residential, and the existing land use is a single family residence, as I had stated. There was a minor site plan associated with this variance request, which was reviewed and approved by town staff on June 13th, 2024. This is a map of the subject site. You can see that the property faces northeast, and it has access and frontage off of Grandview Avenue. On the left side, you'll see a snapshot of the plot plan that they are proposing. On the right, I zoomed in and put a little bit more detail as far as just some of those setback requirements, but you can see the front of the house pushes out onto Grandview Avenue on the right-hand side. The deck covers 3 sides of the house, and then those stairs extend from the front door towards the front property line. Improvement location certificate or survey document did show a deck in that existing footprint from 2009. I'm not exactly sure when the old deck was constructed, but historically this is the footprint of the deck on the site, which was falling into disrepair. The property owners just wanted to do some needed maintenance on that and reconstruct this deck and stairs. On the right side, you can see a zoomed in version there. The minimum front setback for properties in the R1 zone district is 15 feet. However, decks and stairs, pergolas, covered porches, things like that do have a 33% encroachment allowance. So that means that the front setback is really 10 feet for these types of structures. You can see that the deck itself extends about 1 foot 4 inches into that setback. And then the attached stairs extend 5 feet 6 inches into that setback. Though you can see the property line indicated by this dashed line, none of these encroach into the public right of way. It is just into that front setback line as existing. Here are some elevation drawings of the deck itself, just to get an idea of what it will look like. You can see, as indicated by the gray line here, the existing grade on the site. So because of the height of the
Andrew?
building. Yeah.
We're not approving the deck right now. You're asking us to approve the variance. So let's not get into discussions of that, just so we're not stepping on our toes.
Okay. My findings are essentially that because of the existing grade and the height of the house is kind of a reason for the hardship creating the variance request. So that's really the only explanation that I was trying to make, but happy to pass through
Okay.
those. The existing land use of single family residential is not requested to change, so that is still permitted. The comprehensive plan review finds that the proposal is consistent with those criteria. The proposed variance will allow the applicant to maintain existing residents in a safe manner, improve access to the residents for themselves and emergency services, as well as allow improvements to the residents' entrance that are compatible and meet expectations for quality. We have received no public comment on this variance application. Section 12-52, subsection I2 in the land use code has several criteria that we must find to meet in order to approve this application. The first one is that it complies with all applicable requirements, including this land use code and all other state, town, and federal laws. Staff has found that this does meet all those applicable requirements if the minimum front setback encroachment is allowed. Town's findings is that the proposal is also consistent with the comprehensive plan and all other applicable town plans. The proposed deck construction will not adversely impact public health, safety, or general welfare of the town. It will promote the general welfare and safety of the property owners by allowing their primary access to their home and complete necessary maintenance. Staff has also found that no substantial adverse impacts associated with the proposed variance or deck stair reconstruction exist. Staff has found that no substantial adverse impacts in regards to the natural environment associated with the proposed variance and deck and stair construction exist either. And lastly, no substantial adverse impacts to adjacent property owners associated with this proposed facility. Section 12-57, subsection A of the Land Use Code provide additional approval criteria for the variance. Staff has found that this proposal meets all of those. First, that the proposed deck reconstruction will not be injurious to public health, safety, or the general welfare of the community. It will not affect the use or value of the area adjacent to the property. And finally, that the footprint of the deck and stairs are proposed in the existing area on the property where it was historically placed due to the siding of the house on the property, the height of the house and the front door, as well as the existing grade. Access to the front door from the ground elevation creates a practical difficulty in meeting the minimum front setback requirement as stated in the R1 zoning districts. Staff recommends that the Planning Commission approve a variance of 5 feet and 6 inches to the front setback to allow the reconstruction of the existing deck and stairs at 10755 Grandview Avenue. That concludes my presentation. Thank you all. Let me know if you have any questions.
Okay, I just had a few questions real quick, just to clarify. The deck that is currently there, they're not asking to expand the deck, it's just rebuild what is currently there?
From as like I said, as was indicated on the improvement location certificate, which is a survey document from 2009,
Right.
it did show the extents of that, the stairs and the deck in that same location.
Okay, because on your matter before the Planning Commission, it talks about construction of a new deck. But then when you get to the summary and condition of approval, it talks about reconstruction of a deck. So I just wanted to make sure we're clear.
Yep.
Okay, and also this is not going to extend beyond their property line, any of this, including the stairs?
Nope.
Do you all have any other questions?
I had the same question. Thank you for clarifying.
Okay. We can move into the public comment part of this.
Yeah, it's a hearing.
so, Okay. yeah,
You get the.
Yes, please. Yep.
Yeah.
Just push the button and make sure the blue light's on so everybody else can hear you.
Yes, please state your name and address for the record and make sure that button is pressed so Zoom can hear.
Yeah, my name is Douglas Argyle. I'm at 10755 Grandview Avenue. Really, I just feel like it's important that we clarify that this deck has been there for 30 years
Right.
and it's just being replaced. No change to footprint, no change to anything. I would really appreciate approval of the variance so that we can access our front door. So thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much.
At 10755. I'm Juliana Argyle. Also, I appreciate the approval of this. It's been hard having my kids not have a place outside to play. We are in a situation where the new building restrictions that the town has adopted have severely impacted our project. And I just ask that you reconsider those building guidelines that have been put in place and how these setbacks impact more community members and families than you realize, and are very costly. These variances for homes that have been here for 120 years, and just going through to replace our deck. to make it safe for my kids to play, has been a very difficult process. And I just want you to reconsider those building guidelines that have been adopted for our town that has been here for over 100 years.
Okay, just for the
Thank you.
record, how much has this variance process cost you?
Well, I don't have the specifics in front of me, but we had the application we had to go through, not just with the town, but also now with Pikes Peak Regional District. So we have to go through 2 reviews and twice the money. On top of that, this variance costs us over $500, which starting the process, that amount changed from the beginning to now where we are today. That price has changed.
And
We
you're saying
also-
you
we
don't know
also
what the
received-
price is that
It was
right?
$500 for the variance, and we also received a bill, which has been discussed and already resolved, but just to comment on the previous public comment that was here tonight, we've also, we feel their frustration.
Okay, thank you so
Can
much.
can I ask another question?
Sure.
Can you specify what the building restrictions are? Do you know off the top of your head? I mean, is it just the whole land use code or
Is it just the setback?
is it the
Um,
setback? or-
Specifically for our project, it's been the setback requirements.
Okay,
Okay.
perfect. Thank you.
Thanks.
That's the hot seat. You got the good seat. Do we have any other discussions for 10755 Grandview variance application? Okay,
I'd move approval of the application.
We should,
we have to end
we
the
should
pub-
close the public hearing and then move into business.
it's 7:02 right now. We're gonna close the public hearing. Y'all will get me trained eventually. All right,
I'd move approval of the application.
okay.
And I second.
All right, let me go back to my cheat sheet. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. Okay, thank you all so much for your time. You're welcome to stay, to sit and listen to the rest of it, but you don't have to. Thank you.
Thank you all. Have a great evening.
Thank you, Andrew. Good night to you.
Okay,
Cool.
let's go ahead and move on to business. We've already discussed the variance application. Staging policy, I think, was the next piece.
Yes, it's B,
That's
staging policy. What page are we on? I'm having to toggle.
Kind of third from the line.
Argyle, I'm getting,
I can't see what page is that up there.
I need to.
Oh, you can't either. 33, so we jumped to 33. Wow.
Hmm.
Oh, okay. So, so the yellow
They're
sheets,
really not as long.
the yellow sheets are all still related to the same topic, Grandview. Okay, gotcha.
Okay.
Gotcha. Okay, I
Just
wondered
wanted to
about
make sure
that.
we got the message.
We've got every angle here. I see. Oh, yeah. Okay.
I mean, again, I don't think we have a lot of discussion on this because this is what we just want to put before the bot, right?
Yeah,
We've been dealing with this for quite some time.
yes,
I'd like to get rid of it.
yes.
So this is kind of the final draft at your last meeting. There was some updates and changes discussed. I should say most recent draft. We'll see if it's really the final, but so this,
The changes and highlighted or in red or anything,
I-
because that was, we've slept since then.
I hear you. I don't have that. I got this, kind of clean version for addition to the packet. And I didn't think to put the previous version in for comparison.
I would like to suggest that we either do track changes or have changes in red or something, just so I pulling them up right next to each other is kind of a pain, but if you can do a track, if we, since
Yeah,
we're the ones working on it, can do a track changes or something like that, it's really easy to accept or reject those changes and then it's really quick and easy.
And that might be a benefit when it goes on to the BOT for their consideration is to, you know, to be able to see.
But.
Yeah. I can see if Commissioner Blasey, because I think this originated from him with
It-
those,
it
with those
did,
comments, so.
Mhm.
I think. Hang on.
I have one somewhere, probably. I can go in there
Yeah,
with emails.
If I go back through all of my notes somewhere, I can find it. It's just gonna take too long.
Well, I can bring it up from our last packet, actually, but we
Yeah.
still won't be able to really compare it side to side. So I don't know. Then we'll just be looking at the previous one, so. That's not as good as having it all in one page.
Well, I've got,
Did this go to the BOT once and then come back? Okay.
It did.
What changes did they have on that one or comments?
Well, some of the red lines that you saw in
Okay.
the draft that you had previously considered was input from BOT, like some of the parts about strongly worded or not wanting to scare off contractors or
Okay,
whatnot. So
you know,
got
it
that
helps
right
keeping
here
notes.
too. Mhm.
if I remember correctly, the board
Um,
also really liked the table. That was a good piece.
Unfortunately, I didn't write down which paragraphs it was, but we were talking about and making sure that,
I have it.
great, please.
what do you want me to do with it? I have it right here. I have the copy from the 9th of June with all the red in it. And that is, you call it the
Can
track?
you just email it to him?
Yeah, I can save it. I mean, share it.
Okay.
Okay.
Can you just maybe talk to us about what page and
Yeah.
paragraph it is and we can just.
So
see
the
it up
first,
here?
the first removal is if there is a conflict between if there is a conflict between this policy and the municipal code supersedes this policy. And the planner deleted that, but it looks like it stayed. The last sentence of the first paragraph. It says planner deleted. I don't know. That's what this one is. And then Blasey did some below. So I think that's fine to leave there. Is
Yeah,
that
this is the final, this is what we discussed as the final version, so.
right?
And this is.
Well,
what-
I'm looking at the track
and
copy,
this
just
is
the
our-
things that were discussed, right? Second, under definition, second right away, second paragraph.
Second paragraph, right away.
Planner was going to delete it. Should be noted that right of ways, the last sentence, are not parcels and therefore requirements on parcels are not applicable. Okay, does that make sense? It should be noted, right of ways are not parcels. Okay, duh. Therefore, requirements on parcels are not applicable to right of ways. Well, that's sort of redundant, correct?
I think.
Yeah, if you could speak up.
It's basically to clarify that, because at one point in time, people were trying to levy parcel requirements on town right of ways, and now you can't do that.
Okay.
Okay, that's fine then.
That's for
Yeah,
clarification
'cause it-
purposes.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Put that in there.
Under construction staging, first sentence, staging town or private construction.
Yeah. but that's
Projects is in
the end of
there.
The first sentence.
Good.
Okay.
And then down below,
That's in my notes.
I think this is developers and project managers. Understand that the town has limited staging areas level ground. Projects require active management to limit the amount of time and disruption. That was the end.
Okay. So-
Is there another sentence? And then high density. It must be added. That must have been added. High
we did
density.
add
Oh,
that.
yeah.
Yeah.
It had been deleted, but April 8th, it was in there, was deleted, but then it got put back. So high density prolonged staging will not be allowed on town right of ways and mixed use area outside of the public works maintenance. So it's sort of a vague, but
I think the
Sure.
key in there was rotating. so it's not
Mhm,
stuck
right,
in one-
right.
One of those areas.
Right.
Constantly.
Okay, under process. If a private project desires to utilize, once the project has, here's what I got. Once the project has obtained appropriate approval, town staff will identify a location that best fits the needs of the town and the entity performing the construction. The town staff will require the applicant to obtain a temporary use permit in accordance with the town code and publish fee schedule. See table below.
Okay.
Is that what that
There's one
says?
Sentence in this one up here.
For location,
Include a stipulated time frame and a published fee schedule including a graduated increased fee if when timelines are exceeded, which, yeah, we discussed that. We don't.
Yeah,
wanna
we
say go
did.
away,
That's
but there
not in
needs to
this,
be- we need
right.
to have boundaries of some variety.
And then, yeah, deleted, mailed notices sent by the applicant via first-class certified mail, blah, blah, blah. Okay, then it's a table. Public projects, town staff will determine. Okay, that sentence is in there, location behind the need, yeah, so that's in here. I think that's the same. Oak Street right away, Old Town Hall. Those are, yeah, Oak Street, Old Town Hall and Oak Street right away. Okay, all that good. And then go below the table. Oh, and then it says appropriate, yeah, scroll up if you would.
Wait, up or down?
Up, yeah, let's go. Let's look down. Yeah, roll up. In certain circumstances, by the appropriate authority. Okay, check, check. Keep going. That's good on that page. Oh, that's the only page I have. And then we have
yeah,
this.
and then adding that in.
business.
Okay.
And, I know John Bell's been keeping that up. we don't have a new one. So he has been doing that, he said. I haven't seen
How
it.
do we get new copies or updated copies of that?
Could he send it to us?
Or actually, he should send it to staff and staff then turns it to us.
Yeah, these are all details we haven't really approached yet. And I'm not, I don't want to speak for John or anything, but I think at the last BOT meeting, he was kind of looking for help in this endeavor. And so, structuring all this could be a good project.
Okay, so.
What's,
Um,
I don't understand the code here. What's the 3 and the behind the town hall and what's that mean?
Well,
That's note number 3. So there's a corresponding note down here. And so he's saying that currently in this area, since this date, there have been these items.
So if we go around behind here, there's a trailer with picnic tables?
Yeah,
Okay.
there is. Yeah, we
Number
were able.
4, fill dirt, remove tree stumps remain on
The-
Oak Street.
yeah, so the yellow one says occupied and active change, and then he's saying what the change was. The others are just like static. The red is occupied, no change. It's just static.
Is this
Additional
something that
detail.
we should be doing, or is this something that we could since they're already working on it, is on these areas, is something that we could ask Public Works to provide? And I'm truly asking because I don't know.
Right.
I think trustee Bell's intention was that he was going to go around and update this. I think this would probably be good to list this as like example. Because right now I believe trustee Bell's intentions are to try to keep this chart up to date. I'm not aware if that's
Is he the only-
changed.
Does he need help or? I mean,
Yes,
That's what.
yes,
he's
I
saying.
think, yes, I think he
needs
wanted someone to take it over. He designed it and thought this is a great tool. And he wanted to share the tool with us, but he
Right.
wasn't gonna use the tool as
Right.
his. Right,
So
and
that-
no one's,
Hence my question, is this something that we
Public
could-
Works.
Since they're going around all these areas anyway, is this something we could reasonably ask Public Works to do or not? And if that's not the case, then is that something that we should look at a rotational basis for our commission?
If you're wanting to assign something to Public Works, it'll have to go through Becky.
Okay,
If you want to try to take it on yourselves and once a month or once every 3 months, update the chart, I'd say just make that as part of the proposal. And when you present this,
well, and if if this proposal is accepted,
Mhm.
then we don't need to continue to do this, would we?
yes.
again,
Oh, somebody
It's
needs
the-
to keep track of
Yes,
it all the
that's-
time and
who's
reassess.
going to go around
Whether
and
it's
actually
once a
keep track?
week or whether it's once a month.
Yeah, yeah,
I think
okay,
anything longer than once a month would be not as useful,
Yeah.
right, okay, I got it.
but that's why I just,
So will the information, let's say we decide to adopt this and will we get, let's say I'm doing June or whatever, will I get information that X company is going to be dropping their stuff and then to update that?
So Becky does have her finger on the pulse often, and I think a lot of this could be filled out with a phone call to her. Hey, I'm doing my monthly rounds, what's the
Oh,
status
okay,
here, and she does keep up on
right.
you know,
I know, we're not. down
delivery
here all the
days
time.
and
Right,
everything like that. And so that could be a piece that helps
Yep.
fast track this.
okay. Who's
Um,
that?
Oh, I just have I have a new attendee on Zoom
Okay.
here.
Okay. Well, maybe we should be the folks responsible for just filling it out, if we could get some assistance.
Is the occupied, no significant change mean occupied with a construction facility or occupied with something else?
Yeah, it would be, you know, it's being used as a
Being
staging
used
area.
as the area,
Yeah.
staging area.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure. It's defined.
I think that basically means like they dumped their equipment or their supplies and they haven't moved it, kind of like what we saw in the staging area over here in the corner or by the bridge where it just stayed. And for
Mhm.
weeks at a time, there wasn't much movement, there wasn't much change because for various reasons, we'll just say it like that. And then again, active change, that means they're moving stuff, something's happening.
Right, I noticed on the Oak Street right away, there was a 4, right? So stuff got moved, but then it was still stayed there. There's still stuff there. So that's a good way to denote it. We just need to know how to use it. I can clarify that with him.
What, and if I'm reading the staging policy correctly, I think one of the exemptions is like town public works department. And I can tell you, and that's where Becky can help too, if we're monitoring projects, because the two of these that are red that Commissioner Fry just pointed out are both public works operations. This is where we leveled for the dumpster blind, for the commercial
Mhm.
dumpster blind.
Mhm.
And the guys just didn't want to move that material multiple times, move it over to the yard
Yeah.
to stage it and then back out. So that is about to get used. And the Spruce Avenue Triangle, I think that's a bunch of washed out road base with
Mhm.
sand. And that should be
Right,
gone any
we're a
minute.
month behind. I
Yeah.
know. Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I haven't seen it there for a while. Yeah.
yeah. So I mean, I think
Okay.
typically you wouldn't be monitoring, you know, stuff that Public Works is doing. I think this is meant more as a contract thing. So this thing might just be more maintenance.
Valuable to know if they're utilizing it and it's not available for other use.
Yeah.
So I think we do need to
Yeah.
get there, put any kind of use that's there. Yeah.
Or maybe we just put like a PW in.
Yeah.
And we know it's our guys, so.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, we could adjust that a little bit to clarify how we like to look at it. That was how his brain worked.
So for most of the other stuff that's not public works, would once a month be not enough, not checking enough? Do we need to do it once a week or is once a month sufficient?
I think weekly is,
Once a month is probably fine. And like, you
Yeah.
know, for example, like the pump station project, I mean, you could have almost checked on that twice a year,
Oh, God, that one
you
was,
know?
that one was special.
And then that could have been filled in, like supplemented with a phone call to town manager. Hey, how's that going?
disagree because I think we need that extra information if we're really trying to assess weekly what's happening. Especially, I don't know. I mean, if something's very stagnant, then fine, then that's easy to look at, but still the same. But if we've got activity and a lot of things going on, I don't know. Mike, what do you think?
Well, who's going to use this? Who's gonna
Uh,
look at it and
That's a good
use it?
point. Who is using this?
I think this is a directive to staff. So this is, you know, hey, heads up, this area is being overutilized.
Yeah.
So, you know, a good example for our discussion here is the recent construction on the Gazebo Bridge. That was a pretty quick project. They were only in there for
Yeah.
a week. So if you had monthly checks, you know, for that one,
Mhm.
you could have missed the whole thing.
Yeah.
Start
Yeah, that's
to
what-
finish. And then, you know, some of the bigger projects are they're just gonna be there and you know, you drive by and yep, there it's still going on. So.
Yeah.
But how is this going to be used? Is it going to be used to allocate where the next one is going in the next project?
Yeah, so the next project is coming and this would serve as a reminder, oh, hey, we just used that for all these weeks.
Yeah,
Let's-
okay.
Let's
To spread the love.
So this
find
is-
another rotation, find something else on the
Would
mix.
you be deciding that if a construction project gets started, would you be the point person for giving them the space?
No, definitely not me. That would be the town manager. And it is also up here somewhere in the language I saw, the board does approve these bigger projects. And a
Okay.
lot of them are ongoing, first there's a grant and then we get the money and then the project starts. And so,
Can be used as the Board of Trustees sees fit. It's on the second paragraph and under definition.
yeah. So, it's in there. So it's ultimately going to be, advisory to the board from the town manager is how that table gets used, I think.
Okay.
Was it reasonable to have the town manager update it? Since she probably has all the data and knows when it's going on.
Yeah, maybe so. I think her input could expedite it a lot for whoever's doing it. And I think,
And it-
maybe the best thing would be to, have someone from the commission side and someone from the staff side team up on it. So,
Okay. So Becky
And just,
and a rotating commission once a month?
we should ask her.
okay,
Let's,
Because it sounds to me like if she's got the data, she might as well keep this up. It's not a very big job. Yeah.
Well,
And
I think our purpose would be to be the reminder,
right,
hey, let's do.
right. We
this.
could back it up. We could team up. I think that's fine.
she
That's
could
fine.
report it to us once a
That's
month
fine.
to meet.
Yeah.
we can just volunteer Becky and John since they're not here. So we'll let them
That's a
know
good
later.
idea.
Okay. But yeah, if you would mention that to her and see, what suggestion work or what line out works best for that. 'Cause, yeah, I think.
So so I think we're done discussing it. I think it's good. Is that cool?
Let's call it the staging usage table or something like that instead of just table. Because calling it just table.
It's a
Oh, it is.
staging area
That's
usage
fine.
status
Okay,
table.
I'm looking at the wrong piece of paper.
Oh, okay. That's
Oh,
cool.
That's the one earlier. The table before it. We need
Oh.
to label that one because it's called table.
Oh, correct. Yeah. Okay,
Yeah, just call
I don't-
it the staging area table or something like that, just so it has a name. I don't care, just as long as it's not table. Okay.
yeah, I'm with you.
All right,
Okay, so are we gonna submit that back to the board? Okay, it is ready to be submitted. So can you as staff submit that, please? Okay, great. Thank you.
I'll make sure that it's in the packet. The next board meeting is July 16th.
July what?
16th.
Okay, so, and then you can let them know. I mean, I'm fine taking a month. That's no big deal. How about you? Mike doesn't want to do it. It's okay. I'll
I
take his
think-
mind.
I mean, I can do it. I just think if
Try
Becky's
that.
got all the
And
information,
maybe
Becky
we'll
ought to
find-
just. do
Maybe
it.
we'll find that
And
Becky
she-
should just do it. I don't
Yeah,
know.
and
Let's
she-
just try,
What do you think?
right? Yeah, yeah. you're
If
right.
I could trouble one of you to send an email or a memo over to Becky and myself and, just kind of highlight what we talked about. We decided to adopt this table and we think using it regularly will help. Your input could help expedite
Yeah, I
that.
mean,
What's the best way to do this? 'Cause
if she could do it, she could do it when it changes, rather than us doing it once a month or once a week. Whenever something changes, she could update it and then put it in our packet once a month, just to show us what the updated table looks like.
Mhm.
Cause mean, she's got the information. She's gonna know what construction projects are going on and where she's decided to put them. And so I don't see that our running around looking at things, we're gonna need to talk to her anyway, so she might as well just do it.
Yes, yeah, a lot of this she's just gonna know.
that does make sense. But let's,
I'm writing it right now.
okay, thank you so much.
Mhm.
Tell her we've given her a new job.
Okay. All right, that closes business. Let's move on to correspondence.
I have not received any correspondence for this evening.
Okay. Do we, discussion items?
Okay, so our land use code and the actual application of it is obviously in its infancy.
Yes.
We have a lot of, well, we've already had a a handful of lessons learned. I think it's important to keep that in mind and try to keep focus in on the code itself. And, you know, we're having a completely independent review now that is identifying certain things and, you know, at least with the code. And I think it's important to kind of keep a focus on the code itself to see if there's changes that need to be made. The Planning Commission should be receiving a couple agenda items from our last board meeting. We decided to have you maybe take a hard look at the independent engineering review and the statement where the decision-making body is actually finding compliance to state and federal laws.
Wait, say that last
So,
one?
yeah,
Well, the decision-making body currently, that's one of their first things they put up. The decision-making body is currently responsible for finding compliance to state and federal laws in our code. And
well,
that's
is that us? Are we the decision-making body? We're the
for
quasi.
certain things like tonight's variance, you are the decision-making
Oh.
body.
So say that again, and what's your point, I guess?
For our code, the decision-making body is responsible for finding compliance to state and federal laws.
And that's, we're not the legal.
Ah.
so that we-
You don't want to do
we don't
that.
want that.
We don't want to do that.
I don't want to do
No,
that.
no, not state and federal.
Yeah.
Okay,
And so at a future planning commission meeting, expect to see those two items on your
Okay.
agenda.
you're going to show us what part of the LUC is there? And, okay,
Yeah, I
I mean-
think we can research it and opt
Okay.
that up and say, here's what we're looking at.
Well, and I'm really concerned about this issue as well. I feel like things just got out of control with the planning commission and we weren't involved anymore and everything's going that way. And then I don't know what all this stuff is going on, but it seems to bear, that we bear responsibility for it. I'm feeling like,
I think there's always multiple
Like-
sides to everything.
Sure.
There's certain things that you're also the appellate court
correct.
in case there are appeals. And so especially on anything that's a minor, you really should not know unless it comes in front of you as an appeal.
Right, but I'm just saying, these building restrictions, as she called them, is in the land use code that the pass-through and all that kind of thing will go. It sounds like there was a whole lot of busy work with both of these applications. And that's what I'm perceiving from the applicants, that it wasn't direct. All this had to be rechecked and rechecked. It was silly. And to me, it sounds to be like, and they felt that was too. And then they got charged to have this all done. So I feel kind of everyone's looking to us for responsibility, but I don't know.
It's actually more of a board
Okay, all right.
responsibility, in my opinion. It's more of
Okay.
a board responsibility because we set the fee schedules and whatnot.
But it's not just the fees, the undertone I'm hearing, and I agree with you, Commissioner Bonwell,
Bonwell.
is that it doesn't sound like there's checks and balances in place. Adequate, let me rephrase that, adequate checks and
Mhm.
balances in place with our usage of baseline and then their subsequent usage of Kiowa Engineering. Just like what was mentioned at the Board of Trustee meeting, was it last week or the week before, or actually they mentioned it here today. Let's see, it was
Yeah. And
it was
keep,
Robin Myers that mentioned that they'd actually gotten a certified engineer. And then it went to baseline and then baseline sent it off to another engineer. And then of course it started this.
yeah, that's
phrase
the
like
item,
that, I'm not gonna
that's
use.
the item that should be on your agenda in the future.
Okay.
The,
Those
the
are
requirement,
concerning.
the requirement to actually have to use an independent engineering
Mhm.
review if there is, say, a Colorado licensed professional
All right.
that is stamping off on the drawing. So that's going to come as a future agenda item to you for discussion. Because that was the output from. the board.
Employ one agency that could do both, or is that a conflict of interest? That seems to make more
well,
sense.
I think it's,
If there are
Um,
any-
well, again,
Go ahead.
that's a future discussion item. There's licensed professional engineers. And right now, we're saying you, regardless that it's a licensed professional engineer, you still got to go get a separate, and we still have to get a separate engineering review that's a pass-through cost.
Mhm.
The question that's going to come to you is, do we really need that secondary engineering review?
No,
So that's a future agenda item for discussion that needs to be published on an agenda, because if people want to come
of course.
and discuss it,
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I imagine there will be quite a few people that want to discuss that one.
I may be one of them.
And that's fine. Um, I know one of the questions I would have for the staff when that comes up, if y'all can provide it, is there a checklist that we give the landowner, whoever it is that's requesting this, before they go and approach their individual engineer, their licensed engineer, that, so that we're making sure that they have all this, they're checking all the stuff that we want them to check, like erosion control or whatever else it is.
We do have that. Part of what's happened, unfortunately, in a couple of these applications is the applicant has approached our office with
After.
then that's happened too, but you know, applicants, in their mind, it's a very simple project, right? But you know, one was like, I won't get into any specifics, but it comes across as very simple, but then you look into it and it changes. And so I've had to go from a minor site plan application and
Mhm.
move it to a major, which then changes the requirements in the checklist.
Understood.
And so as details emerge, you know, but you do get a checklist
Okay,
based on the type of application you get.
yeah,
But sometimes we look into it more and it's more involved.
okay. I'm just thinking
So-
again about the pass-through piece of, you know, if they already have an engineer that they've contracted with and that has done some or all of the work ostensibly, they can already go through and say, yes, yes, no. Oh, I need to go back and do this, as opposed to passing it on and all of that, you know, back and forth between two different engineering consultants.
The pass-through piece, I'm happy to take some ownership there and explain that if you have time for
Please.
this. We struggled with the fee schedule for 2024. And the debate was, you know, do we have higher fees to the applicant? Or do we reduce those fees and you know, knowingly take a hit as the town? And just pass that on, you know, just make it an administrative cost. And we looked at both options, and if you go too far down the road, either way, it gets pretty unattractive. You either end up with, you know, really high fees or really, really low fees that, you know, basically turn into a tax on all residents. So this was a way to try to balance
Okay.
those two methods of thinking.
Let me correct my terminology. I think the term I should have used is third-party fees.
Sure. So to balance those two ideas, the concept of pass-through billing came up, where if you know, in certain cases, if an application is much more involved, then the applicant bears the cost of you know, that additional burden. A couple of these bills that have been talked about were totally my fault. The fee schedule allowed for pass-through billing for I think it was subdivisions and engineering, and not all planning services. And so my first batch of bills that I got from Baseline, I just launched them out. You know, I'm the treasurer and get that money. So I launched out these bills, and you know, half the cases they were in error. So like 5 or 6 people got bills they shouldn't have at all. So when we review the 2025 fee schedule, I'm gonna, you know, show the board the real cost of some of these applications relative to the fee
Okay.
that we charge, and we'll review that.
And
And
then that will be a board discussion to set this fee.
that's gonna
This
become
fee
another
that
board
is
discussion for,
nonetheless.
yeah.
Okay. Understood.
Do we require an engineering study just to rebuild a deck that's already there?
It depends, as I understood it. So, a little more historical context. Our previous planner, was Julia Simmons, and she actually brought Kiowa on then. They actually predate, Baseline. And she brought them on to support her in her role. And, you know, the problem is an engineer is working for the applicant. and might have a limited scope on just that project. And Kiowa, or, you know, the town's retained engineer, whoever that is, might look at, you know, the erosion situation and how it affects other parcels and other parts of town. And so the idea was to have, you know, an engineer that represented the town's interests and not the applicant's interest review the application, which sounds good at first, but I think we need to find a balance for when we utilize that.
Maybe a conflict of interest. Could
When that
you,
makes sense.
Todd, can you kind of explain briefly, you know, why we're doing that? I mean, so, you know, if you have to do anything, do you have to have an engineer? I thought you just had to do an application for, you know, whatever. Why we have to have an engineer? Is it Pikes Peak Regional? And then Pikes Peak Regional probably has engineers looking at your stuff. I mean, how do you know that all these things are going to happen? And why are they all required?
Okay, so the town only mainly deals with setbacks, erosion control,
Right.
height, that type of thing. We do not have our own engineering staff to do any of the building inspections.
Then why do we
and there-
need an engineer? Or
Well-
why does the applicant need one?
Because it's required.
Okay,
Not
this is
by
what I
us,
want.
by-
Required by
by-
who?
It's a state requirement.
State. Oh, okay.
Okay,
right.
so if you're building anything, like when I built my house,
Right.
it had to go to the town. We had to get Pikes Peak Regional Building involved because they enforce all of the, like national codes, like
Okay,
national
so why
electric
doesn't-
codes,
Why doesn't
energy
Pikes Peak
code.
Regional do all that? Why do we have to have that third engineer? Or that third, you know, so there's a,
Okay, so that is a carryover from years ago,
oh,
even before I ever got here. Because even when I built my house 4 years ago, we had to go to Kiowa to have a separate engineering review
because.
for the erosion, grading and erosion control plan, because that is the one piece that the town has really no experience in. We can't really make. a
Yeah, but
final
won't Pikes
decision
Peak
about it.
Regional Building do that?
No,
No.
no, they handle building codes,
Oh,
electrical code, plumbing
okay,
code,
the details. Okay, got it. Got
the
it.
structural codes. And it's interesting to note that even if you're rebuilding a deck, Pikes Peak Regional can come in and say, that's not adequate. It does not meet the latest codes,
Why do people even want to do this then?
because you fall through your deck. I mean, the
know.
deck gets to a point where it fails.
I can see an engineering study for a house in a new house, but
know.
I can't see an engineering study to replace a deck.
Well,
We don't
I
require
can a
that.
little bit because some of them are so high on the
Yeah,
air and all
The town
that.
does not require that,
Okay.
but Pikes Peak Regional for a deck, probably
They're
will.
just replacing their same one, but they're,
Pikes Peak Regional probably will. It's separation. Okay. Town is just like, you guys just did the variance. That's all we do.
okay,
Everything else is Pikes Peak Regional.
got it. But then
No.
where's this Kiowa Engineering and,
They're not in this one.
They're just
Oh.
erosion.
They're just
issues.
for like the stormwater paragraphs and what other? It
how do
basically
you
gets
know
into,
if you have an erosion issue? Who lets you know?
staff will let the applicant know.
Okay,
Because if you're, say, building a house, if you're adding any non-permeable space, then guess what? You get the grading and erosion control plan.
Yeah, but-
Unless
and so
it's an
those guys
accessory
didn't
structure.
get it, but why did Sean?
Hmm?
Sean and,
Adding a roof.
Backed up against,
I know what it is, but because he's by a side, by another fence.
Yeah.
Because there's a roof. Oh,
any,
good
any
God.
adding,
oh, the watershed.
Oh,
Yeah.
up, ding, 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 ding. Okay, I got it.
any,
Oh, my God.
but there are some, again, there's always exceptions. And that's where, baseline's been coming in. Okay, you need to do this one and someone else may not if it fits all the exceptions and whatnot.
But baseline is only supposed to be addressing like the variance, not all the engineering stuff, right?
They make recommendation. And keep in mind, I think you're trying to mix some things. Don't mix.
Well, it sounded like it did. Baseline was then criticizing the engineering.
If,
And then the engineering
Okay,
was
so
criticizing baseline.
let's just use an example.
Mhm.
If engineering's required. Okay, if say a grading and erosion control plan is required. Some applicants will go ahead and hire a licensed professional engineer to draw up their grading and erosion control plan.
Uh-huh.
Right now, the town requires an independent engineering review since we don't have any engineers and it's part of our code.
Well, since we don't have one, they're all going to be independent. Is that correct? Any would be independent.
But yeah, independent of the applicant.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh God.
So we
Same-
have
at
our
the s-
town, we have a town engineer under contract. So if they come in, if an applicant comes in with a grading and erosion control plan that's been stamped by a licensed professional engineer,
Oh,
we have a town engineer
okay.
that's supposed to be looking after town.
And that's
interests,
Kiowa.
And that's Kiowa.
Okay. So what would have been more direct would be just coming to town and going, okay, let this Kiowa do it instead of all these different engineers.
If you can't do that, you can't, we can't require you use a specific firm.
What?
Yeah, absolutely not.
But you are requiring that Kiowa takes a look.
As for the town.
For them to use, they are allowed to use whichever engineering firm they want to for their basic stuff. And then what
Kiowa's
they-
under contract to the
is
town.
that if there's an erosion,
Right.
consideration, then the town says, hey, we also need this done, and we,
We send it to
Okay,
Kiowa.
Okay.
It's
I
passed
didn't
through.
realize there was multiple things that we're discussing in the engineering realm. Okay,
Yep.
got it.
I have a question though, because a certified engineer is, I understand the concern about a conflict of interest, but a certified engineer is, I would highly doubt would put their certification at risk.
Again, you're
But-
getting into the discussion for when it becomes an agenda item
Fair enough.
for you.
Okay. got it.
Um,
Yep.
that's a
Understood.
valid, that's a very valid point and to keep in mind, but when it comes up for your agenda, you
Yep.
need to kind of think about those things.
Okay.
And I'm sure there's staff's probably gonna present, here's why we do it and whatnot, but really it was in effect and it was being done before I even moved here.
Okay.
Right, but if it's always, I don't want to hear about it. It's always that, always been the way. Let's change it if it's not right.
Yeah.
I don't think he's arguing for that.
I'm not arguing.
Yeah.
I'm just saying it's been that way.
It's been stuck so far.
Yeah.
One other thing I would like to bring up, I know, Todd, you mentioned, that we are the appellate court, so we shouldn't have a lot of details. However, I think it would be beneficial for us to have information about things that concern the planning commission as far as building, as far as those kind of things, just if there's an update that we could get once a month from the staff on what's being worked. Again, I
Yeah,
understand we can't have the
being worked
details.
is the questionable area. If it's something where we've issued a permit already,
But
maybe.
there's already, in my short time here, there's already been 2 or 3 things that have come up that it would have been helpful if we'd had the history or known that it had already been being worked, or that the bot had already talked about it, or, if we had some visibility of the process or checklist or whatever's happening. Again, not getting into the details of the discussion, but just that it is being discussed. I think that would be helpful. So that we're not caught off guard constantly, because that's what it feels like is happening. And I know it's not on purpose.
And I'm just going to say, because I attended the Colorado Municipal League meeting, and Sam Light gave a really good discussion about what a planning commission does, that we're just the judges and we're just here to impartially assess. And so we really need to know our land use code. That's the thing. We need to probably have a copy of it available right now. Now, Baseline's gone on ahead and pulled out from the land use code what was applicable. And sort of what Baseline is doing is that sort of impartial, here it is, it fits this, whatever. And that's all we're supposed to do. We're not supposed to go look at it and see if it looks right or whatever. And I think that, that I kind of had an aha moment myself, like, oh, we don't, we're feeling this emotional thing from our townsfolks, but they don't understand that we're just impartial and we don't need to know those details. So I hear what you're saying a bit, but I think that I mean, I felt a little stumbly as I went over this and that packet was hard. And then it was a big picture of the deck and then a little picture and there wasn't a pointer and I couldn't follow what he was saying. That happens every time. I think this format is difficult. I can't tell what they're talking about. But I could still look at it and think about it just while I'm here and I didn't have to do a ton of prep. But we shouldn't have to really be doing all this prep because we're just here to hear the information and then process that in an impartial way.
And make a
And,
decision based.
sometimes it's like, well, and it's not what we think. Well, everybody should be able to enjoy I've heard Dan say, everybody should be able to enjoy their deck or whatever. Of course, but that's not impartial. That's an opinion statement. So we need to not express any opinion statements at all and try to be, and so,
Yeah.
wrap it
As-
our
as
head
much as
just in a more
possible.
professional way for us.
Yeah, as much as possible, it's, here's what's presented, here's what the code require, does it match? As much as
Right.
possible.
And maybe the compromise on that is as things are brought before us for consideration, decisions, et cetera, you have that timeline, checklist, whatever that says it was presented here, it went to here, this has happened, this has happened. So we at least know what that timeline and that process is and looks like as it's getting presented to us. That's the very first thing we see from baseline even. Or y'all staff, I don't care which, but I think that would be extraordinarily helpful to help provide the perspective and the setting that we need in order to be able to make these decisions better.
Yeah, I like that. We don't have to have a big list or anything, but yeah, it sort of goes, and here it is. And then we're like, okay, here we are, but
And also keep in mind, if you're uncomfortable with something, you can always table it.
mhm.
And tabling it, well, now you've already had it in the package. It's already been out for public dissemination.
Mhm.
So there's that option there as well.
Well, and so Brandy, I feel that, I understand what you're saying, but if we had a list of everything going on behind the scenes, what would that help us do? I mean, how would that help? I guess the staff approved all these different things or whatever that we didn't know about. I don't know.
With the very first one, we didn't know when and realistically that.
Oh, that was a mess. The Foster one last week. Yes, I agree. That was wrong.
Approved first and that we were supposed to come afterward. We didn't know this. And so
Yeah.
if it was something that was presented as, hey, here are these steps that were proposed or planned, even if we decide to change it later. And, oh yeah, here's the timeline that is taken,
Mhm.
because time does factor in too.
Yeah, there's
Especially when.
there's definitely lessons learned on that application.
Yeah, lots of lessons.
My opinion, and have emphasis on opinion, is that the timeline of events was actually appropriate. Okay, get an easement first and then do any kind of approvals for any kind of build. I also am of the opinion that we didn't quite hit the mark with the easement agreement. I think if it would have been worded a little bit differently, had maybe some other information in it, then it would have made a lot more sense. It's like, okay, the town said, yes, you can use an area. But now
Mhm.
to get the rest of the build approvals, you got to go through the rest of the steps for the build approvals.
Mhm.
So to me, the sequence was actually not bad.
No.
Getting a variance before you have an actual easement, I'm not sure
Mhm.
what that really buys you.
And that's up to the bot to decide.
Yeah.
Again, but that's where I say, again, that would be bot and staff, having some kind of roadmap or checklist that could be, everyone could utilize, including the applicant, saying, this is step one, step two,
Mhm.
step three, hey, this is done, this is done. This is when they were done or approved, this is the next step, and having that really clearly defined, I think would be extraordinarily helpful. 'Cause,
I do too,
mean,
yeah. It seems mysterious, doesn't it?
As a homeowner looking through the land use code and trying to figure out, okay, what are the steps? What's what? Yeah, it's all in there, but it takes a fine tooth comb to figure it all out. And other than coming to the staff and saying, when y'all can be able to provide that, here's your steps and checklist. My God, that would make things easier.
Yeah, actually, a pre-application conference is a requirement, I believe, in our code. To
Yeah.
come in and talk about what you're
Yes.
doing and try to identify all that stuff. So,
Yeah. But then is that something that you then hand them an actual physical or even email, like a checklist? Is that something that staff maintains of saying, here's where we're at in this process? Is that something that the bot has in their packet or that can be handed to us as the PC saying, here's where we're at?
it's the
I mean,
challenge.
It doesn't have to be pretty.
Yeah, the challenge is that everything in this town is pretty much a unique application, it seems like. There's so many encroachments and, and the title companies are onto us. They're on the Green Mountain Falls now.
Oh, yeah, they don't want to come up here.
Yeah, it's one of those things where
What kind
we
of
want to make
companies?
The
Hmm?
title
title
companies.
companies, if
Many of
people
them
want to sell.
here.
Yeah.
Mm.
And so it's one of those things where the clean, if there's not evidence of something that's needed that can help, make sure you have a clean title,
Mhm.
then you get into the question of, okay, is this something that we require now on the latest application, or do we just let people fight it out when they get to their title? So there's still, like I say, there's still lessons learned coming in. And it's a different role. I will tell you that I believe this planning commission actually in some ways has more authority than the El Paso County Planning Commission. You actually get to decide on certain items. And my understanding is El Paso County Planning Commission, all they do is make recommendations. At least that's what one of the county commissioners told me. So, yeah,
Do we have to get El Paso County and the state and the city and the regional, everybody involved in all these projects?
no. No, we only engage in things that are in our code.
And the Pikes
But
Peak.
we have an agreement. It's a intergovernmental type agreement with Pikes Peak Regional Building Department. They handle all of the building codes. And so that's something that, in fact, most every community in this region uses Pikes Peak Regional Building. Because trying to keep up on all the electric codes, all the energy codes, and all the changes that come out, with those and the state mandates that go out with those is just daunting. And I'm glad to hand that off to another entity.
All right. Any other items for discussion? It is now 7:54. I am adjourning this meeting. Right on, sister.
Hmm.
Okay.
was texting the wrong way. My